shut up, you listen to my monkey mouth. There's a companion when you got pun on the canoa route. Hopped in a portal and got in a fight, Elias knocked him out. Bow, Naruto fighting style. Bow, UFC he tapped out. Bow, we win, we get crowned. Monkey mouth, monkey mouth, monkey mouth, monkey mouth.
Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to the Ones Who Woke Up podcast. This is Joshua, and always
ShawnPail.
Thank you so much for coming on, man. So this is like I think my 5th iteration of the Ones Who Woke Up podcast, and this was a spontaneous thing, and I really love spontaneity. I think that some of the greatest shit happens just like flash in the pan style. And you were up here doing a podcast with Mikey, doing a Shut Up You'll Listen, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Dope. And we were talking about maybe having you come on and do a podcast up here as well, right? Yeah. So, do you want to talk about like what your idea for the podcast is?
A lot of sports topic, pop culture, things of that nature. Sports actually got us started on psychedelics about Aaron Rodgers and his ayahuasca. He tampered with that. Ayahuasca.
Yeah, you got it.
And Percocet, his usage in that, and how it's kind
I can't believe that guy takes Percocets before football games. Bro, that would make me so lethargic. Like, I can't... I've taken, like, a Perc 20, and it, like, made me vomit. I thought I was going to die. I was like, holy shit, this is, like, what fucking overdose feels like. So I can't imagine... He must have just taken so many that his resistance is built up to it to the point that it's just, like, a Tylenol.
Yeah, I can't believe he actually admitted that he does it. The NFL's not gonna like that.
Well, I mean, that might be the NFL doctor telling him to do that. Like, if you're dealing with nagging injuries throughout the season, they tell you, like, your doctor prescribes, take this 4 times per day at X times. And if, like, that time coincides with the start of the game, then, like, here we fucking go. You know, take your medicine as described by your doctor. And so, you know, I can't imagine. I mean, if he's taking it recreationally. So you saw the podcast, I didn't. Did it seem like he was saying that he's taking it recreationally before the game, or
he just brought it up like, you know, this all season I tampered with ayahuasca. It showed me a love and like a feeling that I've never known that I needed to come back. Then he said that, you know, dealing with injuries throughout the season, he takes Percocets, like a lot of Percocets, to get me through it. I was like, man, he really admitted to using it. That's what kind of blew my mind the most.
So the thing that blows my mind is that you have to think why he admitted it, right? There's an environment of permissibility and normalcy surrounding that in his locker room. You feel me? Like, he ain't the only one doing that. This is like we're all doing it, so I can talk about it openly type of moment when he's having a moment with Joe, just having an honest conversation. I imagine that that's a much, much more prevalent thing in the NFL than like anybody would ever want to admit.
Yeah, he's definitely not the only one. Like, for him to feel so freely to say it out loud, like, if we get busted, I ain't gonna be the only one.
Yeah, well, and again, like, it might be something that, like, he feels like he can't get busted for. Like, I'm certain, absolutely certain that, like, ownership and the coaches, like, are fully aware. Like, I've known guys who've played high-level ball, and, like, you get to your locker, and there's, like, an arrangement of pills for you that, like, the fucking nutritionist and the coaches have, like, put out for you. Like, that's like what you're supposed to take. This is even in like D1 ball, I've heard this, and definitely in the NFL, I've heard this verified.
Like syringes and pills and
there's a fucking regiment, like just in quite the same way as they say you run certain amount of sprints in certain amount of time, you take certain things, and like that's just part of the fucking deal, like for real. And so I can't imagine that Aaron Rodgers is going to get in any fucking trouble for what he said. I think that if anything, they may try and fuck with him more about the ayahuasca. Which you watched the interview. What was his like take on ayahuasca? He said it showed him love, and like did he have a more in depth conversation about that, or did he just kind of gloss over it?
Yeah, he went kind of in between. Like, he didn't go too in depth. He kind of just described the feelings it gave him. He said he had an emptiness from like how he grew up. That it kind of gave him an awakening of how the love felt, how he should treat others, how he's been a bad leader over the years. Like, it kind of showed him what he needed to be, is what I gathered from it.
Yeah, bro. Absolutely. Yeah, it's a very, very, like, introspective experience where, so for me, I had a similar deal where I was effectively judged, right? Like I went through, it took me through every what you would call a Planck frame. Are you familiar with this concept?
No, sir.
A Planck frame is a concept in physics where if you, I don't know the exact number, but if you were to like divide a second by 100 quadrillion or something, like some obscenely large number, and like get to like the smallest conceivable snapshot of the universe in a given instance, that's a Planck frame. And it took me through every single Planck frame that I've ever been through, like up to and including where I'm at, where I'm going, and in the womb. It was asking me why I was kicking my mother in retaliation while I was in the womb because she was sitting in a way that was uncomfortable for me, and I was trying to like force her to do something that would make me more comfortable in the womb. And yeah, so there's and the neat part about it for me was that every time that, like, you know, every point in space and time that's ever happened and ever will happen exists right here, right now, and they're all accessible. So like whenever you think about something that happened whenever you were 8, and that pops into your brain, like that's your consciousness, the thing that makes you, going to that actual place in space and time, and seeing it firsthand and replaying it back in this actual vessel that we're inhabiting right now. And so it took me through everything I've ever been through. And every time that I would like, by the time that I could put my consciousness at that point in space and time, whatever it is, the galactic consciousness, the sum total of all wisdom in the universe, whatever it is, whatever the thing is, like God, that thing that everybody tries to talk about, that thing, it was there waiting for me. Like I'd get there and it was like, I was just trying to see if you were going to bullshit yourself and me, basically. And the determining if you were going to bullshit yourself and me is having your heart weighed against the feather of truth in the hall of Anubis. You familiar with who Anubis is?
Oh, yeah.
So I went to the hall of Anubis, bro. And like every god that's ever existed ever was there. Like every idea that anything ever had about a god, that thing was there. Like that version of it was there. All of them. And they had their fucking microscope on me directly. Like the entire attention of the entire godhead was focused entirely on me in this moment. And it felt like I was literally under a microscope. And it basically told me that everything's all good. Like, you've been doing good. Made some fuck-ups. You know you've made some fuck-ups. And, like, it was good that you were honest with yourself and me about it. And, you know, learn from it and keep growing the way you've been doing it. Like, everything's going to be just fine. And, like, immediately it occurred to me that something was communicating with me. And I was like, what the fuck is this thing communicating to me? And the first question that popped into my head was, what's the purpose of life? And I'll give you one opportunity to tell me what the purpose of life is. And I'll even give you one hint. It's a 4-letter word.
Love.
You nailed it, bro. That's the whole fucking point of this whole playthrough. Like, literally, you know how they say that, like, we're like 99% open space? The thing that holds everything together in that open space is love, my dude. Like, I swear. It is the absolute answer. This whole thing is a big act of love. And we're all one big organism experiencing ourselves for the sake of our own entertainment. And it's a fucking fun ride, bro. Like, we're basically monkey people, like, riding a drop-top spaceship through space right now. Like, make the best of it, my dude. For real.
Hey, I love the idea. I've never done psychedelics or nothing like that, but I like the idea of hearing people talk about it. Like, it opens your... I'm not even on the drugs, but I like can visualize in my head, like you seeing snapshots of your life and like micro frames, and I can see them being put on a scale in front of all these guys.
Yeah.
It has to be, I believe, a lot of Earth's history and all that ties into psychedelics. Like, you seen guys and stuff that you have no relation to, never praised to, but they were there. Maybe those people, we all go to that similar plane where the whole idea of weighing your soul against the feather, maybe that is a real thing. That's someone that took the drug experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for sure. Like that was a first-hand recantation that they wrote down, for sure. And it took me a lot. I didn't know what happened. Like, it took me a lot of like reading and looking into shit to like find these references, to like find a way to even speak about this shit, because it was like overwhelming and profound, bro. And like these words that I'm using are like words that like I've found in different places, like galactic consciousness, the Hall of Anubis, heart waiting as a feather truth. Like these are like different terms from different cultures that I've like pulled together that I find like make the most sense for me as a person who's developed a Western sense of the world. You know what I'm saying? Like I grew up in America, and there's no changing that. And so I try and channel this stuff through the filter of someone who's use those words. Like a lot of what makes this stuff effective to communicate is understanding that like you understand words the same way that I understand words. And so I try and find stuff that like people can relate to, you know what I'm saying, and speak it that way. I mean, I did a lot of college, and like I went and took like college logic a second time because I just enjoyed the shit, and because it was beneficial for me to help translate this shit. You know what I'm saying? Like I can go through your Rolodex of words and make sure that you and I are like clearly communicating and understanding one another, and then work from like a common understanding and work into these concepts and make sure that people like have it. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like sometimes a tedious conversation, but you know, I like to shine the light on this type of stuff for people, and so it's a labor of love that I'm happy to do. You know what I'm saying? And that's the whole point of this podcast, is so that I can go out here and say these things like in this flowing manner that like usually only one person would ever get to hear in a moment, like me and you. But now we got this fucking camera, and it's hooked to 7 billion people on the world. You know what I'm saying? And so like that's how the fucking awakening happens, is we start saying these things that are true. And the only thing that I don't like about being this blunt about it is that the point of life, love, right? It's supposed to kind of hit like a joke. You feel me? Like, it's supposed to be self-evident. You feel me?
Yeah.
It's not something that's like, it's like whenever someone says a joke and everybody around you laughs and you don't quite get it, and then like the guy who's telling a joke has to explain it to you, and you go, oh, that's funny, but you don't get as good a laugh as you would have, and you don't get to share in the spontaneity with everybody. And that's what I'm doing for people right now, is I'm just like, you didn't get the fucking joke? Okay, here's the fucking answer to the joke. You're in on the fucking party now, but like you didn't get the like organic giggle that everybody else got whenever they discovered this. And so it's a little bit of a disservice to everybody, but also I think that we're at a point in time where there's such a mental health crisis going on, particularly in America, that I think that it's incredibly beneficial. Like even if it isn't the full thing that you could get out of discovering it on your own, it's better than dying of depression.
Yeah,
like,
never knowing.
Yeah, well, I mean, whenever you go, you're gonna know. Like, you're gonna fucking assimilate into the galactic consciousness entirely. Like, the thing that makes you is gonna dissolve. There's still gonna be something there. And then immediately it's gonna go, oh, it's gonna fucking integrate with everything there ever was. You're gonna be fucking Galactus. You familiar with Galactus?
Oh, yeah.
Is the last being alive at the end of the big crunch, and he fucking, and his mind is now like actively a part of every single piece of matter and everything. That's us. That's us right now. I swear to God. It's just that we're experiencing ourselves through these little meat sacks for the sake of having like a more robust experience, right? Like what's neater, having one big experience or having 7 billion neato little experiences adding into like one big robust experience? Like it's just a whole bunch of data points to have like this really big neato experience. And I'm telling you, bro, this motherfucker is lighting up like a candle actively. Like there's a psychedelic renaissance happening across the globe right now where like people are talking about it. I mean, MDMA just crushed its most recent round of testing in actual big pharma settings where they're doing it for PTSD and shit. LSD is fucking like verifiably being used to treat addiction in every form, including alcoholism. Mushrooms are being used to treat depression and crushing it. They're also being used in hospice cases to get people to grapple with their own mortality very effectively towards the end, so they have a better quality of life towards the end. I mean, the list goes on. You know what I'm saying? The list really does go on. And I can tell you right now that like my psychedelic experience that I typically relate to in most of my conversations was one of the most important experiences of my life. Like without a question. Like it's up there with like my son being born, me being born, and like that's the big three. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was born, I was reborn, and my son was born. You know?
Yeah, do you feel like psychedelics take off like a lens of real life and we see past that to what we really are?
I think that that's a very effective way of communicating it. I think that what happens is, so for me, the way I've usually communicated that concept is that, like, imagine you have like this two-dimensional square, right? And like, if you only ever looked at your reality from where you're sitting, you would think this is a two-dimensional square for life. And then one day, someone gives you 10 hits of LSD and you go, woo! And you realize that this thing that you thought was two-dimensional is actually a 3-foot-long beam that you've just been staring at the end of, right? And so that's what it really does. Is it just shows the, like, immense amount of depth that this whole thing actually has that people don't realize is there. One question I like to ask is, how do you show someone how to see something that's so self-evident that they forgot how to see it? You feel me? Like the magic that erupts off of the fucking countertop whenever you're high on LSD. How do you show someone to see that? How do you get someone to? Because it's there. I'm telling you, bro. Like I got the stinky old wizard eyes, bro. I've done blown my. Like, I'm not Josh Barnett, bro. I'm the galactic consciousness experiencing myself through this meat sack for my own entertainment, right? And like, what's entertaining right now is doing this. And I'm telling you right now that like you can see the face of God in the lead of a pencil if you're looking at it right. And that level of depth and context and like robustness is at everywhere. I mean, everywhere. Imagine looking into the center of a sunflower. If you can see the face of God in the lead of a pencil, what the fuck will a sunflower do for you? You know what I'm saying? And so, there's magic everywhere, bro. Like, it's all beautiful. It's just everybody's passing this reality through like the filter of how does it relate to capital gain, and like how am I going to like maintain my own homeostasis, and like everything, bro. There's so many problems. You have so many things that you're passing. Like, you have a network of experiences that you're passing every experience through. And then you have a whole series of wants and expectations for the future that you're also relating that experience to. If you could just stop that process, stop passing what's going on right here, right now through the filter of the past, and stop forecasting it as it's going to relate to what you expect the future to be like, and just experience what's happening right here, right now, as emphatically as you possibly can, I swear to God, the thing would reveal itself to you on a silver platter. It is just that simple. Like, the states of mind that you attain through psychedelic use can absolutely be attained through proper meditation. And I'm telling you right now that it's a good thing for everybody. Like, it's a good, like, it, there is a such thing as bad trips. Like it's gonna shatter you, bro. Like, if you take enough, like, it's going to shatter you. And like, if you don't have the constitution to put yourself back together, then it's like not gonna, you're just gonna be a burnout. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, I don't necessarily, I'm not necessarily a proponent for like massively high doses for just like everybody who I come across, but like, man, in the proper setting, and like with the proper orientation and the proper like want to, and like the
headspace to take it in.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the reason why a lot of people have bad times with this is because there's no proper orientation. There's no, like, I hate using this term, but like, there's no shaman. You know what I'm saying? It's just like 3 fucking 18 to 24-year-olds who got their hands on some hellacious fucking drug, and they're gonna take it in their fucking living room and watch rap videos. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, y'all about to have a weird fucking time. You know what I'm saying? Like, you need to do something that's like really chilling, good vibey, on the come up. And once it gets to where you start feeling like you're losing control of it, you need to go sit in silent darkness and meditate. You know what I'm saying? And that's where you're going to find like the real benefits, not by, you know, clicking around on YouTube, playing on your fucking cell phone when you're high on this shit. Like, fuck that.
'Cause that opens you up to a whole different type of, I don't want to say like spirits or anything, but a whole different vibe and energy that you don't want, which might lead to the bad trips.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Yeah, I mean, you nailed that. There's definitely, you have to understand that, like, we're all connected, right? And so, like, that connection that you experience through the phone is real, bro. Like, that's a real connection. And the algorithms that have been employed by the powers that be on the digital side are very simple. Like, they're not as like over the top as people think. All they're doing is feeding people what their eyes are looking at the longest, more of it. And what happens is you see something good and you like, and you're like, oh, huh, yeah, and you keep going. It gives you a little drip of dopamine. You see something you don't like, and you sit there and you stare at it, and you try and figure it out. Why is it this way? You try and think about how I can fix it. You try and engage in the comments. You try and do all these other things to like try and like make things better for you and everyone abroad. And all the algorithm is seeing is engagement and eyes. That's all it knows. All it knows is that you looked at that for 5 minutes and you left a comment and like, oh my God, that's the fucking golden goose. We're going to give you more of that every day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so if you haven't curated a healthy feed, knowing how to like knowingly manipulate the algorithm into giving you something that's good vibey, then you're gonna immediately open your phone and see something about some celebrity doing something stupid. You're gonna open your phone and you're gonna see something about some nasty piece of news that's going on abroad. You know what I'm saying? There's always these like nasty, weird, salacious headlines that are like meant to be clickbait, and like that's just not it's meant to hijack your consciousness. It's meant to divert your attention to it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's what it's meant to do. And so you don't want to do that to yourself whenever you're in a much more impressionable state of mind. So what people don't understand is that like you have like primary channels that your like brain operates through, right? Like where I tell you to think about what you're going to have for breakfast tomorrow, right? Like there's a path of least resistance for it, right? Like you know what you're going to have for breakfast. It might be nothing. Whatever it is, like you know roundabout more than likely what it's going to be. Well, whenever you take these drugs, it kind of just unwires all of that, and it kind of just fires off spontaneously in new directions, and like it almost like puts your brain in an incredibly neuroplastic state of mind. Are you familiar with the concept of neuroplasticity?
No, but what I've got from what you just said is when you're taking these different things, instead of like this beaten path that you've gone through your whole life, it like opens you up to like, oh, go over here. You channeling something different.
Yeah, well, it just occurs to you, right? Like, again, your frame of reference is so ajar that it like lacks familiarity, right? Like you pass through the path of least resistance, and you know what the path of least resistance is because of the familiarity of the circumstance, right? And you can get so high that like the circumstance starts to become unrecognizable, and like it's like, what do I do? And that's whenever you go into the like. So back to the concept of neuroplasticity, there's two primary like states of mind that people exist in. And there's like the on the come up, you don't know what's going on, and so you get confronted with a problem and your brain has to create a solution for it, right? Like because you haven't experienced it before, you don't know what it looks like on the back end, you don't know where it's going to go, and so you got to like come up with it, right? And like that's whenever people's brain is in a more like flexible state, right? Like that's whenever you're creating the framework for the second state of mind, which is whenever you start passing all of your experiences through this dense web of past experience, right? And you like know how it relates, right? And so it's called crystallized information, right? It's crystallized processing. You're just passing it through the filter of what you already know and relying on the processes that you've developed to spit out like a reasonably good conclusion for you, right? And like that's that. And so what happens is that like by the time you're 25 or 30, you're pretty much at the point where like you're stuck in your ways and you've got this like frame of reference and you're just doing the do, right? And it absolutely circumvents that entire process. And you have to find like new paths of least resistance. Whenever you come out of it, those are still fresh, and you can kind of reset yourself in that way, right? It's an incredibly beneficial thing. So we talked to you about what you have going on and stuff like that, and doing a podcast with us. But what do you think you're like? Because I know you've said several times now that you're like really interested in the stuff, but you haven't really done it. But so what was the story that like piqued your interest? Like what was do you remember like the like when your curiosity awakened?
It was the Joe Rogan, the Stoned Ape Theory.
My fucking man. So Joe Rogan's my dude, and Stoned Ape Theory is from Terrence McKenna, and Terrence McKenna's my dude. So yeah, I'm very, very pleased about that. Like go Joe Rogan, go Terrence McKenna. The floor is yours.
Like I found it really interesting. Like how, like you said, the crystallized path you go on. Like, it's an interesting theory that some apes just decide, like, oh, I'm gonna eat this, and it kind of just like expanded their world to something that they could see beyond. Like, oh, I can stand up. Oh, I can mess with this stick. I can make it a weapon now, and it just spread along to all the other ones that kind of got on that same wavelength they were on.
Like the 100th monkey?
Yeah.
You familiar with the 100th monkey?
I've heard of it, I'm not familiar with
The 100th monkey is they've seen in Japan where they can teach monkeys a certain skill or whatever, and after 100 monkeys learn it, all the other monkeys of that species, even in unrelated places, will start doing it.
That's a reverberation.
Yeah, well, it's just we're all connected. Like, we're literally all one. Like, we're literally all one big shared organism. You can verify this with like how they've proven scientifically that animals know when they're being watched. Like, they can feel it. And the reason they can feel it is because the thing that compels the thing being watched is also the thing that compels. It just got dimmer in here, didn't it?
Is that a brown out?
Huh. I don't like that at all. But the thing that compels the thing being watched is also the thing that compels the thing doing the watching. Like, the galactic consciousness on the back end is connected to both, and so the data is accessible. Like, you're hooked to the same hard drive, so like it occurs to you when you're being watched that there are files being created of you on the back end. Well,
Might want to stop it and save it from here.
I really don't like that this is doing this. I'm just going to keep it rolling. You know what I'm saying? This is just on the fly. It's cool. Whatever. If we lose this recording, it's fine. But is it like nasty outside?
It was, but it hadn't been for a while.
I mean, you were.
I did this just once during the.
So it's not like there's like a big thunderstorm
Yeah.
fucking up nothing. It's
But
just.
the power did go out earlier, so it could just be it kind of maybe kicking back on.
Huh. Cool. Well, what were we saying?
the
We were talking about the galactic consciousness and how we're kind of like all connected now. Things that feel being watched is that kind of tapping into.
Yeah. So the being observed and knowing and how it relates to the 100th monkey and all that. And so, yeah, bro. And I know that earlier you asked me about my opinion on how the use of psychedelics relates to the emergence of civilization. Not just the emergence of consciousness in lower developed apes into like what we now are, but also like whenever we were like hunter-gatherers types and like became industrialist type shit. So first off, I'm of the opinion that the Sunyata experience in ancient Vedic Hindu philosophy, like the literal like first theologies ever, the oldest religious texts on the planet, are Hindu, and they talk about doing the Soma experience, and it's like a ritual, and like I'm not going to go into a lot of the details; these are kind of gross, but like you can pretty effectively determine that they're doing an Amanita muscaria mushroom trip, and so literally the oldest religion on the planet and the oldest civilizations on the planet, I do believe, were sincerely founded on psychedelic use. I mean, I do believe that like the emergence of theology came from like it all starts with Hinduism, and Hinduism starts with fucking mushroom trips, in my opinion. And so yeah, I definitely think that there's a huge influence over it, like much greater than any like academic would ever want to admit. And what was I gonna say? You can go you can go look at the cave paintings, and like you'll see like swirls and honeycombs and shit like that. And like I'm telling you, bro, I've seen where like Graham Hancock on the Joe Rogan podcast in particular is a guy who's done a bunch of research on this. I obviously like have never gone in the field and done firsthand research, so like I only have like opinions. Like I have a very meta take on everything, right? It's like my opinions based on other people's opinions, but my opinion on the matter is that I think that based on what I've heard, there's a pretty clear linear relationship between the like influence of the psychedelics that grow organically locally in different regions and how they influence the art, right? Like if you see a cave art that has honeycombs, you can guarantee that like the fucking mushrooms that grow there locally will make you see honeycomb patterns. You know what I'm saying? If you see a swirl pattern, you can guarantee that like the fucking root bark will make you see a swirl pattern. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, the bottom line is I think that there was a huge role. I don't know if it's necessarily the stone ape theory. I don't know if I like completely co-sign that like taking mushrooms was the thing that like brought us from being apes to humans. But it's an interesting thought. I think it's a beneficial thought to have. It's neato to look at and tinker with. And I think that what's much more verifiable is that it had a big influence over us as once we were already human. And we were developing into what you would call modern, right? Whenever we were still in caves, we were taking that shit and that was inspiring art. You know what I'm saying? And art inspires civilization, and it's just like, it just all fucking starts going from there.
That's all I've been thinking when like art, religion, things like this. Like a lot of different religions and their stories. Like if you didn't tie it to that, you'd be like, man, you must have been high when this happened. Like getting eaten by a fish, or oh man, I came down from a mountain and the bush just caught on fire. Like, well, you must have been high. I think a lot of things like that get tied to taking psychedelics. Those stories being passed on, they might get tweaked and changed a little bit, but at the root, something like that might have possibly happened to that person.
That bush that grows, particularly in Jerusalem, has a tie to DMT.
Yeah. So who knows, right? It could have been a DMT trip, but the thing about all these different religions for me is that I do sincerely believe that like all these prophets were people who saw the truth. And they all just explained it to the best of their ability. And it sounded a little different. And if you can think of like this grandiose truth that I'm alluding to, right, as the ocean, right? Like there's an ocean of truth that exists out there. No one knows exactly how to get to it. But everybody is on like their own little rowboat in a river. And all the rivers lead to the ocean. You feel me? Mm-hmm. And like all the waters mingle. Like the water in the rivers are the water from the ocean, and like you're in it. You're in the ocean effectively. Like you're in the thing, doing the thing. And we're just all oriented at truth. You know what I'm saying? Like I think that real truth, like Aristotle said, the simplest truths are the most difficult to communicate. And I think that true truth, like the realest truth, like whatever truth there really is completely incommunicable with monkey babble. I think that we're just never going to touch it. And this kind of relates back to whenever the galactic consciousness told me that love was the answer. It didn't go, love's the answer. No. I was like, the whole scene went white, and like a drop of pink food coloring came at me and exploded, bro. And I'm telling you right now, like imagine you have an idea of what love is, right? And turn that into like a snapshot Planck frame, right? Like you now have like a like nice little fucking snapshot of what love looks like to you. Right? I have one, Mikey has one, and like a listener at home has one, right? You can snap those together and make a shape, right? And now you have like a fucking pyramid. And the walls and the shapes are defined by our conceptions of love, right? And in the center of that thing's mass, in the center of that pyramid's mass is where like the truth of what love really exists. But none of us can quite get to it, but we're all oriented directly at it, and we're all truthfully channeling it to the best of our ability. But truth can only be like related to the experience of individuals at this point through the way that like we're experiencing life. And so we're all just talking about it to the best of our ability, but none of us quite get there. And I think the same thing happens with religion. But that shape that I saw, that was every conception of every individual that ever has existed anywhere in any universe's idea of love. Like it was 100 quadrillion faced dodecahedron. Like it was just the most complex, perfectly geometrical and symmetrical shape that had ever existed, and every little surface on it was like a being like you or I's God-honest interpretation of what love was. And it was like incredible, bro.
So do you think there might be an even deeper level of psychedelics? Like you said, what you seen was perfectly symmetrical and even and everything. Nothing in nature's like that. So you think
everything in nature's like that. Go look at us. Go look at a sunflower.
Well, like,
go look at your hands. Like look at
like irregular shapes, like not perfectly round and nothing like that. Or you might have some uneven or certain. Like, do you think there's a deeper level, or you think that's the?
Oh no! I mean, there's definitely higher levels to this shit. like for sure. Like I don't know if I think that we can definitely create more robust and deeper psychedelic experiences than what I've had, especially like with chemistry. Like we'll find more potent psychedelics, and we'll also create orders of operations for people to like actually meditate and like facilitate the flow of these experiences so that they can really knock it out of the park. But what I think is more interesting is that I think that there are beings that exist out there that have brains that are simply more capable of channeling the psychedelic truth. Like I think that like could very possibly be a gray alien out there who just like walks around all day in that state, and like it can take a psychedelic and just fucking blast off all the way around to being me at this table right now. You feel me? Like it can go full fucking circle for show. And so I don't know where that ends. I don't know where. I mean, it's a snake eating its own tail eventually. I think Alan Watts, I don't know if this is an original idea by him, but I know he used to talk about it. Are you familiar with Alan Watts?
No.
Oh, go home and listen to some Alan Watts. There's like Alan Watts chill step mixes where they put like chill music over the top of it, and then like after the beat drops, they'll have this like philosopher dude come in and say something dope. And it's a really, really like neat, chill way to like get introduced to some of the Zen philosophy that Alan Watts really used to share. But he used to go through a thought experiment of saying, imagine that you had a machine and all the time in the world where you could dream any dream you wanted. Like tonight, you could go and dream an entire lifetime of like the most lavish experience you can, like anything you want, right? And you did that for 100, like 7,000 years. You did that, right? You did that fucking 300,000 times, and you were like, I'm out of lavish ideas, right? One day, you hit surprise. And then one day you hit more robust surprise, more obscure surprise, more particular surprise. And then before long, you're having these really weird, obscure experiences. And then one day, you're having this experience right now. You feel me? Who knows? Could be.
Yeah.
Could be. But it's a neat idea. And this is the type of shit that happens when you're on LSD. Like this shit is just like bombarding you when you're on LSD. It's like bro, think about this. Think about this shit.
That's all. See, I just like hearing people talk about it. Like I like how you even brought up aliens. Like what if that's part of the reason like we can't really comprehend aliens, or they haven't visited us? Like maybe we can't even they can't even handle level 1 of what there really is out there.
My thing is that what are the actual chances of an alien being from out and abroad being able to exist in our type of environment? Like, an alien may have evolved in an environment where the temperature's 1,000 degrees on the Earth, they might have pools of liquid methane, and the fucking air might be fucking nitrogen. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I heard
it could be so vastly different.
Yeah, like they said that too. Like aliens, what if they're not how we're the water planet with the water people? What if our concept of alien, like you said, what if they're from a planet like Neptune, where those beings are made of gas and we can't see them?
Yeah.
Or made of different materials where we can't even comprehend them being.
Or how about this? Their molecular structure vibrates at a different vibration, and they exist in a plane of existence that we can't see. We want standing right there. And just because they literally don't reflect the type of light that we see, we can't see them. You feel me? Like, you understand that, like, all photonic energy, radio waves, microwaves, gamma waves, visual light waves, it's all just photonic energy, right? Like, that's what people need to understand, is that it's all just a photon going along a wavelength. And, like, the reason why you see this blue is because all the light that there is bounced off of this or was absorbed by it, and the only color bouncing off is this blue, and so you can see that blue. You feel me? Mm-hmm. But if there was a thing, like, we need to understand that our range of the photonic spectrum that we can see is infinitesimally small. Like, it's 1/1,000,000th of what can conceivably be, right? We only know what there is because of our capacity to measure it. Every time we develop finer instrumentation, we find smaller wavelengths. Every time we find bigger wavelengths. Like, it's all there. It keeps going in every direction. We run out of ways to measure it. And so there could be beings that exist where they only reflect the type of light that is the type of light that we don't even know how to measure yet, much less even see. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, it's not even a matter of, like, they being, like, made of fucking nitrogen and not being able to exist in our atmosphere. They might literally be invisible to us because they're they absorb the entire visible spectrum of light that we have, and they only reflect light from a spectrum that exists outside of our brain's ability to receive it. I mean, it's just a fact. And so it can get really, really weird. Like, yeah, it can get really weird in terms of when it comes to aliens. And I think that a lot of people, like, don't have an open enough mind to really even understand what alien life could look like. Like, to think that it's going to be like a pentastar designed like us and, like, they'd be able to breathe oxygen and drink water, I think that's pretty fucking small-minded. Like, it'd be dope. It'd be really cool. Like, it'd be so cool. I'd be like, wow, neato. Like, fucking more monkey people from a whole other planet. Like, neato. But that's not my gamble. My gamble is that it'll be something very literally alien. Like, it would be difficult to even recognize.
Want to hear my theory on aliens?
Absolutely, yes.
My idea on aliens is, if I was going to a water-based planet, why would I prepare myself, coming from an alien planet, why would I prepare myself to breathe air if this place is mostly made of water? Like, why would I not design myself to breathe underwater, do everything I need underwater? These beings don't go there. They don't really seem to care about it. Nobody would bother me. If I wanted to do anything on that planet, I could go anywhere around the globe just by being there.
Yeah, every landmass is surrounded by water. Like, there's, like, you can get anywhere.
Yeah, I
for
can
sure
go to the middle of any ocean. There's nobody near me. Hundreds of miles away, I could do anything I want out there and nobody would know.
Yeah, real talk.
And there's a whole area of the ocean where people go and they disappear and never come back.
Yeah, that's true. It happens. You know what the most recent thing that I saw they're saying they think happens in the Bermuda Triangle is? They think that big pockets of methane build up just under the surface of the floor of the ocean, and they erupt. And a big gas bubble, like a huge gas bubble, comes up to the surface and pops, and then everything just sinks into the bottom of where that bubble was, and the water rushes in on top of them, and they just sink forever. And they think that it's big methane gas bubbles doing it. But that doesn't explain what happens to airplanes. You know what I'm saying? And so it's just, like, still, like, But, like, and I don't think they've ever actually observed this. I think they're just, like, fucking shooting in the dark.
Yeah, and then there's always stories of these civilizations that are like Atlantis and all that, these places that are underwater that are super advanced.
Mm-hmm.
Why do dolphins just love people? They have no inclination to love people and want to help them unless they see some being similar to people that are intelligent.
Like, oh shit, these are like the water people.
Yeah.
Like, what's up? These guys are probably friendly.
Yeah.
There's an ancient African civilization that was aware of Sirius A and B rotating around one another thousands of years ago, way before any, like, white man hit it with a telescope and we're like, oh, Sirius A and B are two stars rotating around one another. These motherfuckers knew, and they said that their civilization was seeded by dolphins, like, they look like dolphins that came out of the water that were from Sirius B. So, like, and, like, they, like, know. They're like, yeah, like, the people who founded our whole everything came out of the water. They look like dolphins, and they came from that star that rotates around another star. And white people were like, fucking what?
And everything in the ocean is so alien. Like, dolphins, they can communicate so well, but we just don't know what they're saying. Octopuses, they can camouflage and damn near shapeshift.
They're also communicating with their skin. They're having conversations with their skin back and forth to the other octopi. Like, that's how they communicate. Also, squid do the same thing with their bioluminescence. Yeah, there's all kinds of, like, crazy shit going on in the ocean that, like, we are totally unaware of. What's the neatest thing from the ocean that you think? What's the thing that, like, captivates your imagination from the ocean?
I think octopus are just the most fascinating thing.
Yeah. What's it like? Just the camouflage?
The camouflage, the intelligence, like, they're so alien that it's like, it's spot on. Like, if there was an alien that had to come down and view humans without being too noticeable, I think it'd be something like an octopus.
Damn, you think that the fucking octopus are the ranger guys for like the like fucking scouts on the ground for the aliens, bro?
Like,
I think that's a dope idea.
I've seen octopus open up jars, open up doors.
You know what's crazy to me is when they squeeze through tiny holes, because all they have is a beak. It's the only bone they have. So like if they can fit their beak through that hole, they can squeeze their whole everything through there. How insane is that? You imagine if just like an octopus came squeezing through like one of them holes up there, it'd be like,
yeah, and they can leave the water, they can breathe the air all right. They're just very alien-esque to me. It's like, what is it with these guys? Like, why do they act like that so differently from everything else?
you know, they've seen instances of them building and maintaining gardens. Yeah, they're like gardening and like making like neat little art spaces around their living spaces. I've also seen, man, where like one of them, like there was a diver coming up on his home and like he like walked out and like looked at him and like stood up on all 8 legs and like stood up at him and like walked over to him and like looked at him real hard and like stood up and was like, "What the fuck is up, bro?"
Yeah, they're very different. Like dolphins and all that, they're intelligent, but there's this thing over here that's nothing like them, but seems to reach that same level as they do.
Yeah, yeah, they're an interesting critter, bro. You know, I saw a thing where they gave octopus ecstasy. Do you ever see that?
I've never seen it. I would love to see.
Well, so I haven't seen the video, but if I recall the article correctly, they were basically they danced. Like they would float around in like rhythmic patterns, and like typically octopus are very solitary, but they went and like sought each other out and like rubbed each other's tentacles and shit, and like danced and would stop dancing to rub each other's tentacles and then go back to dancing and shit, and they became like significantly more social. And they were like, they didn't expect it because octopus don't even have, like, from our ability to measure, octopus don't even have the receptors in them to receive ecstasy, and yet it clearly made a difference in their behavior. So
they're very touchy-feely. They want to dance, very rhythmic, almost like highly intelligent being like us. Oh, I want to feel love. Maybe they felt that love feeling from that.
I think that everything wants to be loved, man. I think that like literally every animal on the planet like is like, I want my mommy type shit. Like for sure.
Yes, like, there's like a survival instinct. Then there's someone side like, first things first, I need to survive. But also, I earn for this love, but I know I can't have that all the time.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the easiest way to actualize self is to be validated by someone else or something else, and like to feel its warmth, and like, yeah, it's a good thing. Like, yeah, snuggles are good. Like, have snuggles, snuggle your girlfriend for sure. But on that note, it's been about 45 minutes, and I feel like that's a fine enough place to stop the podcast. It's been fucking fantastic, dude. I'd be happy to have you on another time. We're gonna have to tone me back a little bit so that we can hear a little bit more about what you got to say. I feel like I definitely talked a little bit too much, but you know, hey man, it's our first swing of the bat. We'll figure it out. We'll keep going. We'll keep getting better. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, I got some more stuff. I've heard.
Beautiful, man. Like, see, so I can see that look on your face. You got more to say. We'll make it happen, bro. Well, Sean Pizzle, dude, it's been a real pleasure. I really appreciate you coming on. Give everybody a shout out, social medias, what you have going on, where they can find you, anything like that. You know, we're at the end of the day, this is a big capitalist plug play.
Check me out on SUIL. Be here on the weekly. ShawnPail_3 on Instagram. And yeah, that's about it.
No, I'm talking about fucking Monkey Mouth Studios. Let's get it. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Catch you guys on the next one.
Monkey mouth, monkey mouth, monkey mouth, monkey mouth, monkey mouth, monkey mouth.